Salute family, it's Tank Commander Zulu back at you in the Real Man Movement. And today I'm rocking and rolling with my brother Brian. We doing what real men do, staying connected. Family first, baby. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Real Man Movement. Salute family, Tank Commander Zulu back at you once again in the Real Man Movement. Today, here at the Real Man Movement, we're going to be discussing greatness. What does it take to be considered great as a man or as a woman? And what determines greatness in your life? Let's talk about it here today at the Real Man Movement with Tank Commander Zulu. Fire in the hole, baby. Fire. Service. We on today. Put the service in. Real Man Movement. All day, baby. All day. Salute family, Tank Commander Zulu back at you once again in the Real Man Movement. Before we get into the content today, I would like to invite everyone to become a subscriber to the channel. If you are not a subscriber, please, I invite you to subscribe today. And when you hit that subscribe button, also ring the bell button. There's a little bell you're going to see, and hit that button also. When you do that, you will be notified about everything that goes on here with Tank Commander Zulu and the Real Man Movement. I also ask you guys to like the video and leave a comment. Let's get into some real discussion about the topics. Now back to the topic of discussion today. Greatness. What is it to be great? And how is greatness measured? Well, greatness here at the Real Man Movement, we understand that greatness is only measured by your service. The service that you put in to whatever you're doing determines your greatness. So greatness is determined by service. What do you mean, Tank Commander? What do you mean greatness is determined by service? Well, let's look at it this way. Many men or many women or many people that have been considered great in your life. Everyone looks at greatness differently. The service that that person put into what made them great and how it impacts each individual, that determines the greatness of that person. Let me give you an example. Many people look at their mothers as being great or their fathers as being great individuals because they produced a service in their life. So when you think about your mother, you think about your father, you look at them as being great individuals. Another example, let's use a more public example. Dr. Martin Luther King, a great man, had flaws, but what made him great? What made Dr. King great was his service to society, his service to his people, his service to humanity in general. That made him great. You see, greatness, once again, is determined by your service and nothing else. It's not determined by vague ideas or ideas that are not followed up on, which produce nothing. It's not determined by emotions. It's not determined by what you feel. It's determined by the service that you produce. Like I said earlier, Young boy with them low boys. See, I call this them low boys. Real man movement, baby. You working. Greatness is determined by your sacrifice. What you put in, you get out. There you go. Hardcore. Greatness determined by your service, baby. Real man movement. I'm a father. And my service is to my children and my family. And because if I follow through the right way as a father, and my greatness as a father will be determined by the service that I produced to my children and my family. That's what greatness is. Greatness is not necessarily pleasing everyone. Some people will not look at your service as being great. Why? Because it doesn't directly impact them. They get no value from it. So in their eyes, your service is nothing. You're not considered great to that particular person. But to the person that your service impacts, you are considered great. Listen, here in American society, there's been many people who have come and gone who dedicated their life to producing a service. Some people appreciated that service and others did not. But to the ones who appreciated the service, that individual who produced and dedicated their lives to the service was considered as being great. You see, you don't have to be great in the eyes of everyone. You won't be. But to whoever you're providing the service for, or whatever direction you are providing the service, and it impacts a person, then in the eyes of that person, you are considered great. There's many stories we can go into where this particular example shows itself true. Time and time again, we got to remember, whatever we dedicate ourselves to, we have to be true to it. And we also have to approach the situation with a love and a determination that is almost uncommon among average people. Remember, your greatness is determined by your service. In the Holy Bible, in the book of Acts, Acts chapter 6, it tells a story about a man named Stephen. They pronounce it Stephen or Stephen sometimes, but it's a Greek name. We're going to just go with Stephen. In the Bible, he was considered the first martyr for Jesus Christ. In other words, he stood up for Jesus Christ. He stood up for the principles of Christ. And in doing so, he was stoned to death. His service to Jesus Christ came in the form of his courage to stand up against the unpopular opinion concerning Jesus Christ. The popular opinion was that he was not who he had proclaimed to be. But Stephen, having a spiritual interaction and receiving the Holy Ghost, knew that Jesus was exactly who he said he was. And in the midst of all the doubters, all those who are persecuting the followers of Jesus Christ, he stood up. He let it be known that he was a follower. He stood up. His service showed his greatness. And because he stood up, he was stoned to death. And listen, before he died, he saw the gates of heaven open up for him. And even when his persecutors were killing him, throwing stones at him, cussing at him, and everything else, he knew he had stood righteously. That made Stephen a great man in the Bible. Look it up in the book of Acts, chapter 6. You see, he gave everything he had to for his service, which was his life. What more could you give than your life for what you believe in? You see, that's why Stephen is considered great, a great martyr of Jesus Christ, because he gave his very life. Giving his life was his service. And because he gave his life, he's considered great. What will you give your life for today? Some of us say, well, I give my life for this, I give my life for that. Would you really? And if you do, and if you are the kind of man, because we do exist, I would give my life for my family, without question. I would give my life for my children, for my wife, without question. That's the service that I have given and will give to them. So in their eyes, I'm considered great. Greatness is determined only by your service. It's not determined by what you say, but it's determined by what you do. Just like Stephen. It wasn't that what he was just saying. He could have shut his mouth. He could have not stood up against those who were persecuting Jesus Christ, those who were hurling threats, and those who were cursing and saying these things negatively about Jesus Christ. He could have kept his mouth shut. But something inside of him made him stand up, even in the face of opposition. And he gave his life. His service was giving his life to stand for Jesus Christ. So he was considered great. He was considered great in the eyes of God.
Warming up, real man movement. Got Roger in here. You see, your greatness is determined by service. What you give your service to is what you will become great in. Here we go, baby. Look at there. Come on. See, being able to strengthen that squat from the bottom. Strengthening that lower back, too. Can't go up into a squat session or into lifting weights or squatting with a weak lower back. You got to develop that lower back. Real man movement, that's what we're doing.
We have to stand up as men, real men. And in some cases, we have to say, listen, I will give my life. Myself as being a 3-time combat veteran, every time I was on that front line, I was willing to give my life. That can't be the only thing in my life that I would say, listen, I'm willing to die for. That was a service to my country, to this country. But I also feel the same way about my family. When you have a love for something, you give everything. Just like I said earlier about Dr. Martin Luther King. He gave everything, which was his life, for the betterment of our people. Not only African Americans or black people, not only us, but for humanity. He did that for humanity. And I salute every man or every woman that have paid the price with their life. That was their service. And they are considered great. Greatness is only determined by sacrifice and service. Greatness is only determined by your service, nothing else. And inside of your service, there's going to be sacrifice. In the case of Stephen in the book of Acts, the sacrifice was his life. Dr. Martin Luther King, the sacrifice was his life. Malcolm X, the sacrifice was his life. But it produced greatness. His service, these people's service to what they believed in, determined their greatness. Listen, whatever it may be, being a father is a service. Being a mother is a service. Being a brother is a service. Being a sister is a service. Being a person of responsibility, not just carrying the titles and not producing a service. If you don't produce a service, you can have those titles, but there is no greatness for you. So today here at the Real Man Movement, I'm going to ask each and every man to go out there and be great. Be a great man. Be a great father. Be a great husband. Be a great brother. Be a great son. Be great. A great uncle or whatever it may be. And let your service to that individual determine your greatness. Not what you say, but what the people say who are impacted and affected by your service. Service determines greatness. There's nothing else. Always remember this. Never forget it. Greatness is determined by service. And with that, I'm going to stop the tank, y'all. Until next time. Remember to subscribe. If you are not a subscriber, please subscribe today. Hit the bell icon. Give the videos a thumbs up. And leave a comment. This keeps the tank moving. The message about the Real Man Movement and Tank Commander Zulu can continue to go forward. So with that, family, until next time, fire in the hole, baby. Tank Commander Zulu signing out.